Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. This is your no-nonsense guide to the Totenreich Easter Egg. Before we load into the match, we'll quickly talk about loadout recommendations. For your weapon on this one, I think the 1911s are great for ad clear, and a ranged weapon is going to be very useful for boss fight, which you can just get out of the mystery box later should you so desire. But if you want to spawn in with something, the Nova line is always a good pick. For gobblegum recommendations, I think for boss, it's a great idea to have a shields up. And if you're in co-op, having somebody with near-death experience is a really strong idea, and idle eyes can be quite nice for just making the fight chill out a little bit as well. Then, if you still have an open slot, Armageddon is also nice because you're just a little low generally on armor plates during this boss fight, and so having some ways to restock those are going to be helpful. For equipment, we're not really fussed, so I would use what you are comfortable with, and then we're going to spawn into the match. The first thing you're going to need to do is follow the instructions to unlock Pack-a-Punch. Now, if you're in cursed mode, it's not going to give you those instructions, so I'm going to very quickly run through them now for you. You'll initially need to activate the broken power lines, and these are on both sides of the map, so you can open up through the doors and get those done. Then, once both of those are repaired, you can go into the robot's head, and you can do this via either the top left or the top right side of the map. You're looking for a big yellow circle. That will suck you inside the head, and then when you're in there, hold square on the center console. That's going to activate the computer, and then you're going to leave the head, and you'll fly out of it, landing on the ground, and there'll be a zombie that will get sucked out there as well. And when that zombie hits the ground, it will turn into ketchup on the floor, and it will also drop an admin keycard for you. So grab that keycard and then head to the War Factory area. That's on the left-hand side of the map, or the western side, if you will, and open up this admin door using the keycard you just grabbed. Inside there, you'll see a Glock drop controller, which is a score streak item. You are going to grab that and then head to the Fishery Island via the zip lines, and you can sink the Glock drop. And this basically is a process where you just wait around for a little bit, and once it's done, the Pack-a-Punch will spawn in place. With Pack-a-Punch successfully present and active in your map, we can start work on the Wonder Weapon. Just to give you guys an overview of the overall Easter egg, we're going to do 3 Wonder Weapon parts, then we're going to do 3 Wonder Signal parts, then we're going to work on 3 Atomkraft parts, and then it's more or less boss fight. And if you get stuck at any time, please check the video description. It's absolutely essential that you do that because I'll have extra supplemental information in there should you require it. That's any stage of the entire Easter egg guide. So starting with Wonder Weapon, you're going to want to head to the dry docks area. That's, again, on the west side, that left side of the map, and press this button here, and that will lower a wall that you can run and jump on. And you need to jump off it so that you can grab some chains from the very tip of the ship. And that's going to be a chain link quest item when you grab it. Then you're going to go over to the Storm Bridge, and you're going to pick up the chili chunks, which you can find behind the truck next to Deadshot, and it will look like a little can of baked beans, my favorite. Bring your tin of beans to the table in the marketplace area on the right side of the map, and if you place the beans before round 10, then you'll get a special round on round 10, and a Xersa will spawn in that we'll need to kill in a minute. However, if you place the beans after round 10, then the next round will just be a special round. No matter when you place them, the following round will be a special round, and that's where you'll get your Xersa. So assuming you've placed the beans, let's say, on 10, and you've got your special round the next round, and Xersa spawned in, you're going to want to take Xersa down, and it will drop a lantern part for you to pick up. Then, you need to come over here to this little building in the very top right-hand corner of the map and hold square to interact with the outside of the building, and then hold square again, and you'll install the chain part that we grabbed from the tip of the boat earlier. And once that's fully installed, the door will open and you'll be able to go downstairs into the basement area below. So, once you've placed your lantern part from the Xersa on the platform in that room, 4 symbols are going to appear on the table. You need to match the symbols on the wall to the symbols on the table, but specifically in the following order. So if we're facing that table from the stairs with our back to the stairs, you're going to want to do the left side of the table, the right side of the table, the back of the table, and then the front of the table. So as you can see, I'm looking in my game here to see what's on the left side of the table. I'm seeing there's a little constellation of a specific shape. I'm then waiting until I see that on the wall somewhere and the symbols rotate around the room. And then when I see the matching one, I'm going to hold interact on it, and its kind of soul energy essence is going to fly over to the table. Then I'm going to go to the next in the sequence. So it's left, right, back, front, and you're going to do those one by one. Now, if you do it in the wrong order, you'll have no symbols on the walls anymore, and that just means that you need to go back to the table, interact with the symbol on top of the table now, and it will return all of the table symbols back to the walls, and you can start the process again. But assuming you've done it correctly, you've matched the left symbol, right symbol, back symbol, and then front symbol, Astrid will appear, and she'll talk to you a little bit, and then she'll start moving around the map. And Astrid basically needs to suck loads of zombies in various locations, and you need to follow her to the points where she needs to do that, and then feed those zombies' souls to her. So you'll follow her, she'll find a little hiding spot, you'll then kill loads of zombies, that will fill her up with souls, and then she'll move, and you'll do that several times. This will then end up unlocking a kind of jumping puzzle for you, which leads to the lighthouse. Now, you need to not use the zipline over to the lighthouse for this, but you actually start it on the non-lighthouse side. You climb up and start ascending all of the different rocks that are there. And you need to be careful because zombies are going to be spawning in here in quite large numbers. So it's really useful to have things like Casimirs and Ether Shrouds ready at this point. You'll climb up, and then you'll get into the lighthouse, and you'll then need to go through another series of jumps and keep climbing even further. And obviously I'm showing it on the gameplay here, but once you get to the very top, there'll be a prompt interaction that you can do to enter the lighthouse right above you. And once you've done that, you'll be able to pick up the wonder weapon, which is the Jotunn star. This thing is absolutely awesome. It's got multiple really interesting kind of interactions with the world. You've got a regular melee, which double swings. You also have a ranged attack, but the ranged attack will only come out if you've charged the lantern with melee attacks first. And if you do 3 melee attacks in a row on a group of zombies, then you'll also sort of fire out a mid-ranged attack as well. Now, on top of all of those things, if you hold the lantern out, it's going to protect you against cold in specific scenarios that we'll talk about later, and it also has some useful interactions with the traps on the map that we'll talk about during the boss fight. So now that we've built our wonder weapon, we're moving on to the wonder signal. For this, go to the lighthouse, and on this shelf you will find a crowbar. Hold interact to pick that up. Then there are multiple wooden boxes around the map with little red IDs on their corner. And these boxes will open if you use the crowbar on them just by holding interact. And the 4 locations of the boxes are as follows. There's one in the war factory just here. There's one in the core foundry just here. There's one in the fjord road just here. And there's one in the dry dock just here. And that item is a flak gun round. So once you've opened the crates and you've found a flak gun round, you can then bring it over to the lighthouse and install it in this flak turret. And make sure you're not doing it in the other flak turret because there are multiple of them, but you want to do it in this one, and then melee the turret with the Jotunn star to fire the flak gun, and it will shoot at the robot head back towards the spawn. Then go back over there and hold interact on that head. And once you've interacted with the head for long enough, something will drop out of it. And you'll then want to hold square to pick that up as well. That's a transmitter that we're going to bring back to the robot's head, also known as Tyr's head. So take the transmitter, run back to the top of the map, get back inside the robot's head, and install the transmitter just here by holding interact. Now, before you leave Tyr's head, you're going to want to stand where I'm standing here, and you need to count the blinks on these white lights. There's a left light and a right light, and when you've just freshly installed the transmitter, each light is going to blink 2 numbers in a sequence of flashes. I know that sounds really complicated, but let me just show you a visual demonstration, and it will make it so obvious. So, for me, playing the clip here, you can see that both the left and the right blink twice, and then they pause. And that means that for my first set of numbers, my left is 2, and my right is 2. Then, after a short pause, they're going to start blinking again. And at first, they're in unison still. They blink 1, 2, 3, and then the left one stops blinking there, and the right one goes up to 5. So that means in that little second set, we had a 3 on the left and a 5 on the right. So those are my pairs of numbers that I need to know for this next step. Now, alternatively, you can just get one of the pairs of numbers and then do what I'm about to explain, and then come back into Tyr's head and look for a second pair of numbers that it will then show you. But if you want to get it all done in one go, then you can do. So regardless of whether you've only got one of your pairs figured out or you've got them both figured out, you are going to want to come to the core foundry area and you're going to want to use a Molotov on this rope. It's frozen and so we're melting it. If you don't have a Molotov, you can craft one, or you can grab one from this location here, and there are various of them around the map, to be honest, as well. Once you've mollied it, you can go up the rope and interact with this oscilloscope, and this is where we're going to input our code numbers. So remember, we have a left and a right number for our first pair, so enter that on the left and the right dial, and then once you've done that, you should get a success quote indicating that you did the right thing. This is now the point where you would either go back into Tyr's head the next round to figure out what your second pair is, or if you already know it, then you need the machine to be back online, and if it doesn't come back online within like 30 seconds, you probably need to push to the next round, and then you can enter your second code. Now, if you do enter a code and it's wrong, and you like time out inside the oscilloscope, don't worry, you then just need to wait 60 seconds and it will come back online. So if you fail, it will come back in 60 seconds, but if you succeed with that first code, I believe you need to do the second one on the next round. You can then go into the room next door to where you're at right now, and you'll find a newly opened box with a Wunderbarrage controller inside. This means you are now done with the Wundersignal steps, and we're going to move on to the Atomkraft Core. For this, we need 3 pieces of uranium. One's from a Ravager, another's from an RC thing, and another is from the Glock drop. So let's start with the Ravager. For this, you are going to need to fish up a radioactive fish. It's going to be glowing green. And by this point in your game, you probably already have a fishing rod, but I'll give you a handful of spawns for these now. So there's a fishing rod just here. There's one just here. There's loads of fishing rod spawns, to be honest. Now, if you're not familiar, the way it works when you have a fishing rod is you can fish at specifically these little red metal kind of clips. That's where you're going to place your rod in order to do the fishing. The way the fishing works is you're going to hold interact to spawn in the fishing rod, and then when it goes blue, you need to interact with it again, and that will pull an item out of the water. And if you fish the green fish spot, it will spawn in an irradiated Ravager. Now, I do want to say, before I show you these spawns, I want you guys to also use a bit of common sense here. Like, look around in the water yourself as you're moving through the map, and if you see those green fish, perfect. That's where they're going to be. Like, don't just blindly only look narrowly at the video here. Like, your game is going to give you a lot of information here too. And also, even if you don't have glowing fish in a location, you should still fish there because you're going to get a load of other rewards for doing that. And it's really important that you do a good amount of fishing in your game anyway. That's going to be important for the Easter eggs. So do fishing in all of the spots I show you, but obviously your target is the green glowing fish. So if you can't find it initially, check the description like I said, and I'll have more spawn points down there. And also go to the next round and try all of your fishing spots again. So, locations. Starting in the spawn called Eadskarlen Landing. If you're looking straight at the lighthouse next to the zipline in the spawn, you'll find a fishing spot. Then if you turn around and run towards the robot head in spawn, you'll find another fishing spot on the right. Then in the dry dock area where the ship is, directly ahead of the big ship on this half wall, you'll find a fishing spawn. And there's a third spawn in this area that I know of on the right before the bridge, next to this folding chair. Then on the right side of the bridge, which is Tyr's shoulder area, you can find another fishing spot perched to the right when you exit the bridge. Then in the Eadskarlen Square area, which is the right side of the map, you can find a fishing spot on the pier with the lighthouse in your view. And if you turn around and run towards the center, to the right of this boat on this deck before the zipline, there's another spot. Then in the Fishery Island, I know there's a fishing spot just here. If you take the zipline and immediately go right, then you'll be able to find one. And in the lighthouse area, there's one on the right side in front of this flak cannon. And there's another by the other flak cannon, which you can reach via this path. But obviously, if you check all these and you still can't find your fishing location, then check the video description. So when you're fishing in these spots, you're looking for green fish. That's the sign that you're in the right place. But those green fish will not show up in your game if you've not already completed the wonder weapon steps and picked up the wonder weapon. What you'll notice is as soon as you fish that Ravager out of the sea, it will be immune temporarily, and then I think it just despawns and disappears, like it just goes away. And then the next round is where the party's really going to start. So that Ravager will spawn in somewhere around the map, and you'll be able to figure out where on the map by looking for the HVT symbol. With it will be a bunch of other Ravagers, but you don't really need to worry about those other Ravagers. You just need to shoot the irradiated Ravager HVT, and once you drop it a third of its health, it will then move to another location. And again, you can trace where it's gone to by just running around or by looking for the HVT symbol on your map. Find it in that spot, shoot it again to take off another third of its health bar, and then it will move to a final location, and in that final spot, you can shoot it to take it down, and when it's dead, it will drop a uranium rod for you to pick up. Pick that up by holding interact, and we then need an RCXD for uranium number 2. You can craft these at the crafting bench, or you can get a free RCXD car from on top of this little crate just here in the Eidskalen Square. Once you've got your RC car, come to the core foundry, and in here, you'll see a little metal grate on the wall. You need to destroy that grate, and then deploy your RC car into the hole. Drive it down onto the little ramp here, and you'll then need to jump across to the other side. Now, I really recommend you aim a little bit to the right when you're about to do your jump, and that's because the jump platform itself is slightly tilted, and it will send you a little bit leftwards. So you want to start your jump aiming ever so slightly more right than you would otherwise want to go, and the jump itself will kind of correct for that in mid-air, and you'll land on the other side. Then, drive the RC into the room and detonate it on the barrels here, and that will then open up this space. And you can then zipline over to the island and go into that room from the other side, just by where the pack-a-punch is. And in there, you will find that there is another uranium, but it is locked inside a cell. To unlock the cell, we kind of need to do a little mini-game. So, the first thing you're going to do is look down this corridor. There will be 5 numbers on the walls of the corridor, and 2 of those numbers will have a radiation sign under them. This is going to randomize. It will just be whatever it is in your game, but you need to look for the ones that do have the radiation symbols. These will then correspond to letters of the alphabet. So 1 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C, 4 is D, and 5 is E. And so you're just going to figure out what your 2 letters are, and you're then going to look around in the room that you're currently standing in for heads in jars that have your letters. So if your letters are AB, then find the heads that have AB. And there'll be heads in there that have either A, B, C, D, or E. Once you've picked up one of your heads, you can place it down on this machine just here. Then find your second head, which will depend on the radiation that you had in your game, and place your second head on the machine just next to where you placed the first one. This will then generate a purple mist, which you can crouch and pick up, and you can then place that on the claw on the opposite side of the room, and that will then turn into a necrospike part. Now, if you got a blue glow instead of a purple glow, that means that you just did it wrong. So you'll need to put the heads back where you found them, double check the corridor, see, okay, I got 2 and 4, so that would correspond to B and D. Find the B and D heads, place them on the machine, generate the purple gas, and then get yourself this part. It's a necrospike, right? And that necrospike is going to act as a lockpick. So go over to the cell, hold interact on it, and then you'll need to rotate your stick or rotate the cursor so that the first part of the lock goes white and glowing and is open. You then need to press, I think it's your trigger on console, if I recall correctly, and that's going to lock that in place, and then you rotate again to get the second part of the pick to open, lock that in place, rotate a third time, get the third part of it to open. That will then open the door, and you can pick up your second piece of uranium. For the third uranium, you need the Glock drop. You can either craft this at a crafting bench, or you can fish it, or you might have already gotten one from a various side quest in the map as well. When you have a Glock drop score streak, you need to call it in, and then a load of zombies are going to be nearby you, obviously. And if they're also near the Glock drop, they will float into the air and they'll start glowing orange. And your job is to not worry about all the other zombies around you, but just focus on killing all the floating zombies. And each time you kill enough floating zombies, you'll see one of the 3 lights on the side of the Glock drop light up green. That's a sign of progress. You just need to keep on killing floating zombies only to sort of charge up the Glock drop. And then when all of the lights on the Glock drop have gone green from you killing those orange floating zombies, it will spew out a load of rewards, and one of those rewards will be your final uranium part. You're then going to need the other new score streak, which is not the Glock drop, but it's the Wunderbarrage. And again, you can craft this, or you will have gotten it from various parts of the gameplay experience here. They drop from various sources, but you can also craft them. You need to come over here and barrage this building. And this is basically going to open up the building for us in a second. So barrage it first. Then when the barrage is done, run up the stairs just here. And then when you get inside, these doors are going to open and you'll be able to go in. Now, for some people, you'll do the barrage and the building won't open for like a full minute afterwards. So if it doesn't work for you, do be patient and just wait a sec. But you may find that you need to do another barrage on it and then wait a minute, and then it will open up and you can do what I've just explained. In there is a claw machine, and you can hold square to interact with the claw machine. Now, before you do it, I recommend you listen to my explanation and then you interact. Because as far as I know, if you fail this step, you'll need to go to the next round in order to be able to interact with the machine again. So the idea is you have 3 uranium canisters on the left-hand side, and these are the ones that we collected in our Easter egg run so far. And you are going to use the claw to drop them onto the grid on the right-hand side. You also have a meter at the top of the screen showing your progress towards getting into the green zone. And that is your target. You want to be in the green. To make progress on that meter, you're going to add your uranium rods on the left to the grid on the right. And the amount of charge they add to the meter will depend on what is next to them. So the easiest way to explain this is just going to be by visual example. If I place a uranium rod into the grid and it has no other adjacent rods, so that means there's no other rod above, below it, to its left or to its right, then it will just be isolated. It will be on its own, and that will add a tiny amount of charge to your grid. Now, instead of doing that, if you pick up a uranium rod and you place it adjacent to one of the existing nodes on the grid, you'll see that it will create a yellow joining line between them, and that will add a large amount of charge to your meter. Now, if you've got a cluster of existing nodes all in place in the grid, and you add one of your uranium rods to that cluster, it's going to light all of those up because they are all adjacent to each other. And now that you've added a rod, they have power. So the easiest way to begin in these puzzles, in my experience, is just to add a rod to the largest cluster. This will then mean that you've got usually maybe 4 or 5 yellow lines visible on your grid, and most of the time you're going to be aiming to get either 7 or 8 yellow lines once all of your rods have been placed into the puzzle. And so essentially, if you've placed that first rod down, you've got 2 rods left. If you still need charge on the meter, that probably means that you need to add rods so that you create yellow lines. So you're going to need to add them next to other existing rods, and that's going to give you a good chunk of meter charge going towards green. But if you've got too much charge, then that's a sign that you actually need to place your remaining rods in isolation so they only connect to each other, and that's what will push you into the green rather than linking them to the entire rest of the network as well. So that's exactly what I'm doing in this first example. I'm getting a good number of them joined. I'm recognizing that I still need some charge. I'm placing one on the outside, and it's looking like I still need a little jump, but I don't want to overshoot and end up past my max capacity on the meter. And I will end up past the green if I create some more yellow lines by joining to the main kind of network. And so I decide that I'm going to just add my 2 final rods in the corner unconnected to the rest of the network, and that puts me exactly where I need to be in that 7 to 8 yellows range without overspilling the meter beyond the green zone. I think it's actually very easy to solve this puzzle with that knowledge, but just don't hastily place down your 3rd rod, and instead just use your 2nd rod to kind of feel out, okay, how much more do I need in order to get up to that green area or overshoot it? And to make your life a little easier, I've got a couple of examples here on screen of other solutions that you might also see. What you'll quite often see in your games will be inverted versions of what I'm showing you. So in the case of this image, it sort of looks like a 1 and then a P, right? You might have a flipped version of that where the P is on the left, or maybe instead of being a P, it's more like a B or a D, like it'll be some kind of mirrored version of it. That's a pretty common shape, and you can also get it rotated 90 degrees and stuff like that as well. There's also this one where you place them this way and that will work out for you. Like, we've got various options here, but so long as you're doing what I've said, and if you need a lot of charge, you're adding another yellow line by going adjacent to some of the existing network, and if you only need a tiny amount of charge, then you're placing your rods away from the rest of the main grid so they only connect to each other and they give you a tiny bit of juice, then you'll be completely fine and you'll succeed with this step. With that done, pick up the Atomkraft Core, and you'll then not be able to sprint, and also just as a heads up, you'll automatically drop this part if you use a zipline or if you try to enter the robot's head. So just bear that in mind. The Atomkraft Core needs to be brought on your back by foot all the way to the spawn area, and next to Quick Revive, you can place it down just here. Then you're going to go into the little shed next door, and you're going to hold interact here to turn on the generator. And then you're going to go back to the Atomkraft Core and defend it by killing zombies until it is charged. But there's going to be a point where it stalls out, and once it's interrupted, you need to go back into the building and hold square again to reactivate the power, and then kill a load of zombies again, defending it. And I think this will then happen one more time. We have to activate one more power, keep it defended, and then once that is finished, you'll be able to pick up the charged Atomkraft Core and bring it all the way to the very top of the map, again, avoiding all zip lines, and you'll want to go onto the bridge. While you're escorting the canister, you will take damage also, and if at any point you need to heal and you're worried that you're gonna die, you can drop the canister by taking a zipline or by going into the robot's head, or simply by holding, I think, your prone button on controller, and that will also drop the canister. Hold interact on top of this barrel, and the robot claw will suck the Atomkraft Core into its hand, and there'll be a moment where the giant spawns in and it fights the robot, and it's actually really awesome. After that, on the top left side of the map, the Dravakar shard will spawn in. It's quite near to Tyr's foot, and you can hold square on that to pick it up. And you then need to go to the right side of the map where the longhouse building is and hold interact on top of this little spit, and it will place the Dravakar shard on it. Once that's done, using the wonder weapon here, fire off a charged shot, and it needs to be charged. It can't just be a shot that doesn't fire out of it. So get some melee kills if you need wonder weapon charge. And then once you've got enough charge for a charged shot, use that left trigger to fire out a little fireball at the meat, and that will create a little bit of fire underneath the meat. And you then need a disciple injection, which is a score streak that you can get by either crafting it, or there is a free one available in the church in the top right hand corner of the map. With your disciple injection, you are going to pick up zombies by sucking them with your left trigger, I believe it is, and then you're going to throw them at the meat. And that is going to start the meat rotating on the skewer. And you're going to just do this for the entirety of your disciple injection, picking up zombies and throwing them at the meat. You do not need to go 3 rounds for this or anything like that. That was a rumor on launch day, but it's not true. you just need to pick up loads of zombies and throw them at the meat. And after 4-ish successful impacts of a zombie on the meat itself, it will begin your lockdown, but there's a chance that you miss and it doesn't correctly trigger. So that's why I would basically just recommend you throwing zombies at it continuously until the lockdown starts. Once the lockdown begins, a named Necropincer will spawn in. It'll have some kind of HVT name. You're going to take him down and he will drop the Sunstone. And FYI, the Sunstone won't always drop at his feet, so it will be kind of near to where the meat was cooking. And you can then pick that up and place it inside the church in the top right-hand corner of the map. And then if you melee the Sunstone with the Jotunn Star Wonder Weapon, it's going to kind of activate it and you'll see some runes appear in the sky above the church. Now, this is actually a really simple step, but it's very easy to assume it's going to be really complicated. But it's simple, okay? You just need to look at my example that I'm showing you on the screen right now. I'm going to say that the first arrow has one line through it, and so it's this arrow. The second arrow has 2 lines through it, and so it's this one. And the third arrow has 3 lines through it, so it's this one. Very simple. Can't go wrong if that is the sort of arrow shapes that you follow. You are going to look at what those arrows are pointing at on the dial, and you are going to light bonfires corresponding to those 3 symbols in this order, okay? It has to be the plain arrow first, then the 2 slashes second, and then the 3 slashes third. To light those bonfires, you're going to run around the map, and you'll find the bonfires are randomly sort of spread out across the entirety of the space. So look at the symbol that you have in your game that your plain arrow is pointing at, and then run around the map to find the bonfire that corresponds to that, and then use a charged shot of the Wonder Weapon. That's the alt fire where you throw out a fireball, and that fireball will ignite that bonfire. If it's correct, then it will not completely re-scramble your dial above the church, but if it's wrong, you'll see all of the arrows above the church like start spinning around like crazy and it'll just reset essentially and you'll have to start again. So light the first symbol that corresponds to your first arrow, then go around the map looking for your next bonfire, and that needs to be on the second arrow, and then find the third bonfire that has the symbol that is indicated by your third arrow, and light that with the Jotunn Star as well. And again, if you don't have charge in the Jotunn Star, just to make it abundantly clear, you can get more charge by meleeing zombies with it, but you should really already know that by now. And so once all of those bonfires are lit, the arrows on the dial will spin around and they'll all start pointing in one direction. And that's a great sign. That means you can then go into the robot's head, and that's where you can start the boss fight. Now, before you go, some words of advice are you're going to want a ranged weapon for this fight. Okay, so spin the mystery box at this stage. I wouldn't really recommend going in with like akimbo weapons, for example, unless you're using 1911s for wave clear, but you want a ranged weapon for damage. So that's where a Novaline is great. I quite like the MXR I've used a bunch of different ARs. They're all going to be fairly viable, I would say. I don't think the Raygun Mark II or the Raygun are fantastic for this, just because they aren't hit scan, and so the projectile travel time is going to mean that you miss a bit more than I would like. So I don't think those are fantastic, but weapons that have good range are going to do a really great job here. You will still need to kill some zombies as well, though, so just keep that in mind. And you are also going to want to have the Wonder Weapon, so don't get rid of the Wonder Weapon. Obviously, it's a dedicated melee weapon, so you'll have 2 guns still and the Wonder Weapon, which is good. So even if you're in solo, you're not going to only have 1 gun, which is great. And also, if you're in co-op, you don't have to have everybody with the Wonder Weapon, but if more people have it, that is going to make your life a little bit easier. Then obviously make sure you've got yourself full armor and also gobblegums. And then it's time for boss fight. In the first stage of the fight, the giant robot and the giant Dravakar are going to be kind of brawling in front of you. And while they fight, you will see red weak spots open up on Dravakar's body. You need to shoot those red weak spots when they're there. That's going to do some boss damage, and then the fight will proceed. And there are several stages of this where you're going to be doing that damage. So just keep on going through all of those. And Eventually, once you've done enough damage to all of the weak spots, the Ice Giant is going to seemingly win the battle against the giant robot, and it's going to start sliming it off in the distance. This is a sign that you are moving into the next phase of the boss fight. And for this, you can either use the Wonder Weapon, or you can just use equipment that you find out in the world. Sometimes frags will drop in the boss arena. You can use those, but for the purpose of the explanation here, I'm going to talk about doing it with the Wonder Weapon. So, what we're going to do is go over to the trap that is going to spawn in, and if you interact with the middle of the trap, it's going to create a little area around the trap, and if you're in that area, you'll be able to fling out as many of your ranged attacks with the Wonder Weapon as you like. And this is important because you need to use the ranged attack on the kind of ice head that is floating in the air and aim for its big open mouth. And that's the same thing you're going to aim for if you're chucking equipment at it as well. This will be a little easier when the head is aggroed on you, but you can do it other times still regardless. And so if you're using the Wonder Weapon, with a couple of flame shots of the Wonder Weapon, you should be able to nail it. And that will cause it to drop out of the sky, and it will then take damage from all damage sources, and so you can have your whole team just plow damage into it, and if you don't kill it, that's fine. Just go back into the range of the trap in that little circle, and you'll get charge for your ranged attack inside that circle, and then from there, fling out another fireball, and you'll knock the head down again, and then it will take damage, and you'll be able to destroy it. While this is happening, you're going to get ice that will start jumping out of the floor and basically propelling you around the place. This is ice that you can dodge, or you can destroy it once it's spawned in, so keep that in mind. For example, the melee attack on the Wonder Weapon does destroy it. But anyhow, once you've destroyed your first head, you'll need to move on to another area if there's another head that is spawned in for you, and you'll just do the exact same process. And then while this is going on, you may also see that when you destroy a head, the giant has a red weak spot on it, and it's damageable again, like it won't be in its immune phase anymore. And that's going to mean that you're going to need to put as much damage into its red weak spot once more as possible. During these red damage phases, it's going to fire lots of rocks at you, and you'll need to use cover. And also, sometimes you'll see a red pulsing effect, and that's a sign that you need to leave that area. So run to a different area. And while this is happening, actually, you'll sometimes have an ice effect in the entire space, and this is where having the lantern is going to be good, because the lantern defrosts you if you're holding it out, and it also defrosts your teammates if they're close to you. So if your teammates are doing loads of damage and they would be freezing, it's all good. You can hold the lantern for them, they can shoot the boss's weak spots, and then once the ice goes away, you can get your bullet gun out and you can keep helping your team shooting those red weak spots. But as soon as you see the boss is immune again, that's a sign that you're about to get some more floating heads that you'll need to fire the ranged attack of the Wonder Weapon at in order to knock them down so you can kill the heads. Now, a really important thing to be aware of is that each time you destroy one of those heads, it's going to drop ammo and it's going to drop armor. And armor is very, very scarce in this fight, so it's really worth being mindful of the fact that you're going to get armor each time you take one of those heads down. I think that sort of the trick to doing this part of the fight successfully is being really proactive with taking the heads out. Like, don't dilly-dally for ages and just take loads of chip damage, but instead try to take out those heads as fast as you possibly can, and that's going to mean that you get plenty of armor and you don't take loads of damage from the surrounding damage sources. Once you've taken the heads out, you'll get on to another damage phase where you need to shoot the red spots on the boss once again, and it's the same deal. If you get a red pulsing effect in the arena that you're standing in, that means you need to get out of that area. And if the boss starts throwing rocks at you, that means you need to dodge the rocks by standing behind one of the sort of pillars or large boulders. And if ice starts spawning in, that's a sign that someone will hopefully hold the lantern out so that you don't all freeze. You're going to keep doing this. Anytime you see more heads spawning in, you're going to need to destroy those heads with the ranged attacks on the Wonder Weapon. And it's kind of a rinse and repeat situation until you've done enough damage to the boss that his face ends up being the weak spot. And once you've gotten there, that's a sign that you're about to get into the final phase of the fight. It's at this stage that I would pop near-death experience, if you've got it. and also basically any other remaining Gobblegums that you have, because this is a very tough part of the fight. The way it's going to work is the boss is going to take damage in its face, right? Just like a moment ago. But while it's taking that damage, it's going to throw out a series of different attacks. And these attacks come in different shapes. So, for example, you've got an S-shaped attack, and that is going to kind of move across the space, left to right. So you'll want to dodge those 3 S-shapes when they fly at you. Similar can be said for the V-shapes. Obviously, those are going to have some gaps that you won't take damage in. And if you're in the bottom of the V, you will take damage. So you need to be standing in a space where you're not going to get hit. There's another one that's kind of an arrow attack, and that one is gonna throw rocks at the back area, and then the middle area, and then the front area. And then there's a line one, a horizontal line, and for that one, you want to prone in order to dodge all of the rocks. So if you've played Destiny 2, and you've done the Witness boss fight, it's kind of like that, except instead of jumping at certain times, you're proning at certain times, and then you're weaving back and forth, left and right. Throughout that entire thing, your near-death experience will be going crazy if you've got it activated, and you need to be just laying into the boss's face, doing crit damage, and once you've done enough damage, it will take the boss out. Now, it's a fairly tricky boss fight, and if you're not able to get it done, then linked on screen right now is a video with an optimized version of this Easter egg guide, so you can do it at an even lower round to make your life easier. And on screen right now, I've got a list of tips all contained in one video, so you'll just never fail the Easter egg ever again. So click through to those videos now. I hope you've enjoyed this no-nonsense guide. Drop a like if you have done, and I'll see you there.